Hi, Jeanne. Hi, Yvonique.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you again. For a quick talk about your project, drop in for common uncertainties with which you're participating in Common In. We're very glad that you're doing so and looking forward to it. Can you tell us a little bit about, for starters, about It's Okay, which is the art collective or art network, you should correct me if I'm wrong, with which you're doing this project, and maybe share a little bit about yourself as an introduction.
Okay, I will start. I'm Jeanne van Heeswijk, and I'm an artist predominantly working within the public domain, assisting communities to take control over their own futures.
My name is Yvonique Wellen, and I work on It's Okay as a writer and researcher, and I've done a lot of research into the context in this area of the Oude Kerk.
And we are working here on a project which the name is It's Okay. And It's Okay is a collective durational undertaking working towards Amsterdam's 750th anniversary, taking place in and around the old church in Amsterdam and its related territories. And during the time, the upcoming years, actually, various groups will collectively work at coming together, taking care, and forms of spirituality.
And why is this at Oude Kerk, which is a really great church in the middle of the red light district in Amsterdam? Why this place specifically, and what's going on in the neighborhood that's an interesting region for such a project?
The old church invited me to get involved with thinking through the position of the church as one of the oldest buildings, or actually I think the oldest building of the city, when Amsterdam is celebrating its 750th birthday, and how it places itself within Amsterdam, but especially within this area. And we are looking with It's Okay at the narration of different realities that form the communal tissue of the area around the church.
Yeah, really interesting.
Maybe Yvonique, you can say something from your research about this area, what you thought is important also around like all the different systems of care that we have been researching.
It's a tremendous area in that regard. It has like various histories that come together, and I think that one of the things that's really poignant is that it's an area where historically already, like for many centuries, a lot of people who had nowhere else to go actually found places here in various constructions. So of course there were like the more formal forms of care services, or like which also often were connected to the church or other forms of religion. But actually within the communities themselves, there also has been very much like communal effort always in various ways within various communities, because there's a lot of different communities actually that come together in this area, and also specifically in this area historically, who really built structures to take care of each other. And that's been really, really interesting to see and learn more about.
It's interesting that you mentioned the different communities coming together. Do you mean by that they are coming together already, or that there's this like myriad of diverse communities living and working there, or are they already like coming together in some places where they're interacting with each other, or is this maybe something that you also want to contribute to with the project?
I think the way Yvonique described it is more that there's a myriad of communities that try to form themselves by offering care structures to create safer spaces for them, and that's historically going on. So there are many different. So you could say it's a polyvocal environment, and many different voices that try to come together. And I think one of the things that It's Okay wants to do is to actually start to not only work with some of these different realities, but also find ways of creating cross connections.
Beautiful. Some of what struck me from one of our earlier conversations, because this is not the first time that we're speaking, was this notion of the church as a place of refuge, and that you're kind of maybe attempting of like revoking this notion of refuge in like this location of the church, and is this something that you have in mind with this project, and if so, how?
I think that's definitely part of it. And I think especially specifically indeed also, of course, this area is very much transforming, and a lot has happened in the recent years also within the area in terms of city planning. And it's interesting to think of the church and its position, which also has various actually functions already, and see how it can actually function as a way to bring various groups that maybe drifted apart a bit, or actually new groups that also came to inhabit the area, and to kind of look into how you can offer a space to different realities, maybe even contesting realities, and look for communality, or just appreciate each other's differences.
And I think this is also from origin. I think this notion of sanctuary, or the notion of being able to host somebody within your structure, temporarily provide a refuge, a safer space, the possibility to gather together also without being prosecuted. This has been originally part of some of the fundaments that belong to this place. As Yvonique just already mentioned, at the moment it also already houses various realities, because it's a museum, it's a church, it's a historic building, so it has a lot of different realities in itself. It's in this location, which is the Wellen area. It's an area that's in constant transformation, so there's so much going on. So I think with It's Okay, we want to emphasize that this unstable, constantly moving and shifting relationships are okay, that it's something to put effort in, that this unstable, moving, emotional texture that makes up this place is something that we could collectively work at, inhabit.
And even also maybe try to shape again, collectively.
Anew, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Jeanne, you started out, when you introduced yourselves, there was this phrase that stuck in my mind of that you work on long duration projects for communities or groups of people to take control of their neighborhoods, or I don't know, recall it like 100%, but something in this spirit. Is this taking it? Is this project in the context of having enabling communities or neighborhoods to take control of the neighborhoods? Is it like this political, or because I know some of your earlier work, for example, in Rotterdam was, so I'm curious about that.
So I said take control about their futures, not neighborhoods, not the same. And earlier work, it wasn't, still is, because that's a quality of a durational project, that there still exists. So there is still an ongoing, continuous working on this notion. I think when what I mean with this is that, you know, the way that I would normally phrase it is that more and more people feel left out in the way that their daily government feel left out in the way that the daily environment is shaped, formed, governed and financed. So a lot of people no longer feel they have anything to say about how their future environment is together, or more strongly, they are they see that particular futures are forced upon them, or sometimes I say images of success are forced upon them. What a successful future for a neighborhood or for a group of people look like. And I think in my work, I constantly want to stress that we have to do this as a common undertaking, as an undertaking in which we collectively try to imagine a more just future, which includes all of our futures and ideals. And I think this is something that is lacking, that's everywhere lacking. And looking at the way the future is at the moment projected upon this neighborhood, there's a particular idea about what that should look like. I always question these images of successful futures. And I think it's important to do that. So I think this here working with the old church, and it's okay, it's also like say a continuation of my work, thinking about like what are the spaces that we can temporarily hold in which we can find time to come together and to work at other imaginaries about how we want our future to be. And in the words of Walida Imarisha, who said about this, like, we cannot build what we cannot imagine. So I think bringing groups of people together to imagine how we would like to be together and how we imagine our futures is not a speculative practice per se, but it is a political practice as well.
Great. This phrase about the imagination, I really like. It reminds me of another one by George Monbiot, the writer who wrote that political failure is in essence a lack of imagination, which comes close, and which is very much in the spirit of Coming In as a whole, where we think that collective imagination, how about different structures, different futures, if you will, is lacking in some cases, or is a little bit, let's say, homogeneous or imposed on people with different ideas, lifestyles, and preferences, let's say. So these spaces where you'd like to offer room for these different realities and stories to come together and exchange these and question the dominant stories of success, let's say. Is there anything you can tell about that? How that's going to work out in practice? Because the part of your work, part of the It's Okay project at the Oude Kerk is a very large project, of which the events at Coming In are only a small part. So can you share a little bit about the any specifics about the drop-in for common uncertainties, which people will be able to visit during Coming In?
Yeah, I think like the way that we see that in our current times of global and local crisis, uncertainties and insecurities are embedded into our existence. And we think that therefore it's ever more important to create spaces where we can common our uncertainties and insecurities. And when we're normally talking about commoning, we quite often speak about commoning of resources.
Mm-hmm.
It's land, food, water, housing, and we are very interested in what happens when you common uncertainties and how that would look like, a process of commoning uncertainties. And the drop-in of common uncertainties will take place in the Sebastiankapel of the old church. And the Sebastiankapel has been historically a place that was also used always to as a space for care, as in various forms throughout history. And we like to actually look at this space during the common in, how the space can prefigure a drop-in for common insecurities. So we will use it to test and try out the drop-in center, which we hopefully will have fully operable at the 750th birthday of Amsterdam. This test will host different narratives and gatherings around different realities, subjects, and different anxieties. And I think this is, to us, this is very important. So we will do some small events in November and in December and January, and then we hopefully will in March have a full series of consecutive days where we will open the Sebastiankapel for a series of attempts to common insecurities. And we will work closely with arts, activists, and local invested peoples around topics as insecurity versus security, neighboring, fluidity, and financialization, collectivity, becoming collective, communal, communal well-being, anxieties and forms of care, safer spaces, practices of care and concern, and distress or distress, as we're all in.
That's a whole, that's a comprehensive list.
That's a comprehensive list, which we will working, which are also all part of the larger thinking of It's Okay, but we will attempt in this drop-in center to really start a process of commoning about it. That will be the
to
first
really
steps.
open up the chapel, and also it's really done in close collaborations with others. So they will open up their angles on these various subjects in that regard. So yeah,
this really sounds great. The drop-in, the idea of a drop-in really immediately puts this image in your head of an open space where everybody's welcome. It's
I think it's going to be also very much about thinking, so the first times at least, how can you actually make a space that is welcoming, so to say.
What does it mean to be offer a welcome to all, or a radical welcome to all? What does it mean to be a drop-in for uncertainties at large? You know?
Sometimes it makes sense to compare to a place where you would normally go with your uncertainties, but it's not that there's an institution where you would go for your uncertainties, which is more traditional or something. But I don't know, some people, when there's anxieties or which you also mentioned, you can imagine going to the doctor or to the psychologist, where I don't know, you make an appointment, and then there's the sort of a clear kind of relationship between you and the institution of the institution fixing your problem in a sense. This is not what you're imagining, right? With the drop-in, this is totally different.
No, we're imagining with this drop-in for common uncertainties. When we think about anxiety, like how can we then common anxiety? Can we common anxiety, and how will that look like? You know.
Yeah, exciting. And the exciting part is that there is no answer to this question, but we might come up with one collectively during over the upcoming months, right?
I think like I am not so much about seeking answers. I think maybe seeking better questions. So hopefully it will generate a lot of new questions from which we can then build towards, because I think that's one of the essence of durational practice. It's not a problem solving thing. It is about finding ways in which we can better is maybe not a good word, but in ways in we can be together otherwise or differently.
And I had one kind of final question, which you sort of already answered now, but what is it that you hope what is it you hope that comes out of the process of this project? But maybe having better questions, formulating better questions is already a part of it, but maybe you want to add to that.
I think like what we already said, this is a first attempt towards opening the chapel as a drop-in center for common uncertainties, and I think over the next years we will build this out. So if from this like this moment of being part of this, we hope that we have amazing gatherings and conversations and create and just get more questions so that we can keep working at it, because I think that is important to keep working at it.
I agree. All right, so I think we lifted a tip of the veil of what's coming at the Old Chapel in Oude Kerk over the upcoming months, and I think well, I'm looking really forward to it, and thanks for the insights.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.